So, is it possible to pursue an advanced education and combat infertility and experience pregnancy all at the same time? Well, today's guests would say yes, because they've done it. Hi, I'm Mark Mellinger, and this is Hope, Faith, and Infertility, a podcast from Southeastern Fertility in Knoxville, Tennessee. And we are with the Divine family today, Dominique and Tim. So good to have you two with us and here to talk about this. So let's start here. When did you first start to encounter fertility struggles?
Well, I guess I would have to say, so we have a 8-year-old daughter, and when we got married and decided that we were ready to start a family, we had no issues whatsoever getting pregnant with her. She was a natural baby. It took a few months, but we didn't have any interventions or anything. And then fast forward a few years, we were ready to start trying for baby number 2, and a couple months went by. I'm wanting to say it was in June 2018. We had a really, really early miscarriage. I think most people would label it a chemical pregnancy. And a few more months went by, and I think it was around 11 months at this time, and nothing was happening yet. So I went ahead and reached out to our primary care doctor, who referred me to a fertility specialist. And at this point, I had never heard of secondary infertility. And so that was the first time being diagnosed with secondary infertility. In my head, what I thought I knew about infertility was it was something that you were diagnosed with just starting a family to begin with. I didn't know that you could have a kid and then experience infertility. And so I was diagnosed with that, which was a big shock. And then I was also diagnosed with endometriosis. And I had surgery in March 2019 for the first time to address the endometriosis. We kept trying to get pregnant. It wasn't happening. We tried IUI. That didn't happen. I mean, it didn't work, I guess you would say. And then I felt like at the fertility clinic we were at the time, I kind of felt like we had reached a stopping point. And I just felt like God was kind of urging us to try something different. And I was actually at a hair appointment. I was talking to my hairstylist, and she had been going through infertility. And she had actually told me about Dr. Keenan. He had helped her get pregnant. And it's like, well, I'll give it a shot. I'll try one more fertility specialist. So I reached out to Dr. Keenan, started seeing him. He ran some tests, confirmed that my endometriosis had come back again. And that same year, 2019, I had another surgery to remove the endometriosis. And a few months went by. We tried naturally again for a while, tried some different medications and things like that. And it still just wasn't happening for us. Dr. Keenan had kind of mentioned IVF, but at the time I didn't have peace about it, and I knew we didn't have the funds available. And then I spoke to a friend who her and her husband were going through infertility. And I felt like God just kept putting people along my path that just kept directing us where we needed to go in this whole journey. And I asked her about their decision to pursue IVF. And she said they had prayed about it. God had given them peace about it. They knew as far as, like number of embryos and things like that, that God was ultimately in charge of that. And so it was after really talking to her that we both had peace about IVF, and the only other issue was the funds, which we had actually just listed our house for sale and got it under contract. And that's when I went and talked to Dr. Keenan and set up all the appointments. And that's what led to us ultimately pursuing IVF through Dr. Keenan, in which we did Mini-Stim. So.
Yeah, Mini-Stim, which is not as invasive. If people want to know about that, they can read about that option on the website, southeasternfertility.org. And if you're watching the video version of the podcast, by the way, you can see the great result. Tim is a man of few words. Dominique told me that before we did the podcast. So he may not say much. He may not say anything. It's okay, regardless. But Tim, one reason you are here is to watch and hold the baby and take her if she gets fussy. But she's absolutely beautiful. Those of you watching on video can see her. This is Callaway. So this is the product of your treatment at Southeastern Fertility. Tell me about her.
Well, her name is Callaway, like you said. We call her Callie for short. She's right at about 4 months old right now. I think tomorrow is her 4 months, born March 23rd. And she is a handful, but she is such a good baby. And she's such a blessing to us. And she loves having attention, all the attention on her all the time.
Well, tell me how your older daughter is taking all this, by the way. She was an only child for quite a while.
Yes, so she is 8 years old, like I mentioned earlier, and she has been praying for a sibling for a really, really long time. Now, she did want a baby brother because she is a tomboy, but she's totally okay with having a sister. That was a little bit of a shock to her. But she's been a big help. Having such a big age gap between the two of them, I was a little worried about that because obviously we had been trying to get pregnant for a while. But having our older daughter help has been a tremendous blessing. She can go and fetch a bottle or fetch a snack or grab this or grab that. She can watch the baby to a certain extent while I'm, trying to do things around the house and whatnot. So she's been an awesome big sister, and she loves the role of big sister.
That's great. Awesome. So family life is good. And, before we talk about how you were pursuing advanced education, Dominique, while you went through this, I think it's important to hit upon this. You talked about the role that your faith played in this, that, you weren't going to do IVF until God gave you peace about it. Very, very wise. I mean, I think believers in good standing feel different ways about IVF. It's a matter of conscience, and everyone needs to work that out with God and seek wise counsel on that. Was secondary infertility a challenge to either of your faith in any other way?
I would say that it really affected me more than Tim. I mean, I think it mainly affected him, seeing how I responded to it. Not that it wasn't real to Tim, but it wasn't him physically that was going through the struggle. It was myself. So it really tested our faith, I would say, in a big way. And I would say probably mostly mine. But if anything, it brought me closer to the Lord. And I hate to say that it took infertility to bring me closer to the Lord. But at one point, you're looking around at all these different things around you, like who can give me an answer, who can give me help, who can give me the right advice. And then at some point, you just have to learn to look up and look to God for those answers. And that's what I did. I mean, it brought me to my knees. I prayed constantly. I prayed more than I had ever prayed before. Just really got in my Bible, seeking his word, and just trying to draw closer to him. And I just really learned to draw my strength on the Lord and not try to get that from anyone else through infertility.
Had you gotten to the point where you trusted God enough and his character enough and knew him enough that even if you didn't get the answer that you want, even if you didn't get Callie, you would have had some sense of contentment?
I don't know. It's kind of hard to say. I mean, in my heart, all I ever really wanted to be was a mom of children. And I know there's a Bible verse about that too. I can't think of it off the top of my head. But if we had not been given Callie, and if we were not successful with the IVF, I'm not sure, would we have pursued adoption, or would we have maybe tried again? Would I be content where I was? It's kind of hard to say. I think maybe I would have handled it a little bit better, just walking through what we did go through.
Well, I bet it gives you a good heart for other people going through infertility who've run into a lot of roadblocks, right? I mean, I bet you can be more of an encouragement to others.
Yes, absolutely. And it's funny because I feel like in the world of just Christianity and church and being in the Bible Belt in the South, I feel like not only IVF, but just infertility in general was kind of seen as a taboo subject. I think people are starting to discuss it more, and people are starting to talk about it more, but there's almost a stigma surrounding it. So it wasn't until I started being really vocal about our journey with infertility and pursuing IVF that I had other women reach out to me that had been going through infertility and just wanted someone to talk to, or wanted to know our story and things like that. I mean, multiple women have gone through the same thing, and it has been a blessing to be an encouragement to others. And at the same time, I had others that were an encouragement to me that had also walk through the same thing. So that's really been amazing.
Yeah, that's great to hear. Yeah, God works in such great ways through these really hard and challenging times. So I mentioned at the top that you were also pursuing education while you were going through this as well, and you were able to achieve your goal. But talk about what you were pursuing and how you went about it with all this going on, the busy home life, professional life, all that sort of stuff going on as well.
Okay, absolutely. So I always wanted to pursue some kind of biblical education. And there's a lot of opportunities around us, but being a busy mom and working at the same time while going through infertility and all that, I didn't want to go back to, I guess, a regular college schedule where you're going back and forth to school, sitting in classes. But I really wanted to pursue that, and I just didn't really know how. I wouldn't say it was even something I prayed strongly about because I really didn't see how that could happen. And then, really, it seems like out of nowhere, our church decided to do a co op program through a Christian college in Knoxville and opened up a opportunity for you to pursue a Bible degree if you wanted. And it was really geared toward like adults, families, parents, because they did it one night a week, a fall and spring semester over the course of 2 years. So they really spread it out to make it accessible for anyone who wanted to do it. The only fear I would say that I had going into that was the attendance, because as long as you had the right attendance, you were almost guaranteed to graduate. The attendance was the biggest part of it. And I knew once we got pregnant with Callie that I would have to miss a couple classes. And that was another thing that God worked out. I mean, it was amazing to see how all these little details that God worked out in advance. So her due date lined up with the week of spring break. And so I knew that we'd have a week off the classes for spring break, that I would have time to recover. And then I made sure that I had not missed any so I could have another week or two if I needed it and still be able to graduate. And so it did work out that way. We missed the week of spring break. There was no class. And then another week following that to recover. And then I think I just had like 2 more classes to finish off the very last of the semester. And then I was able to walk in graduation and get that Bible certificate. And that was just a really proud feeling, having a newborn and having an 8-year-old and working another job and being able to walk across the stage and get the certificate for that Bible degree. And that was amazing.
Yeah, that's great to be able to fulfill a personal dream like that. And I'm sure that as you continue to encourage others, you'll and teach, and you'll whether you teach formally or not, you're going to put that Bible degree to good use by helping others. Last thing, what did sort of a tough thing to answer, but if you have thoughts on it, great. If you don't, I understand because you've been through a lot. But after all this, what did God teach you about Himself? What did He teach you about yourself through your infertility journey?
I would say, kind of echoing what I touched on earlier, that ultimately God is in control no matter what kind of situation you're facing. And for us, it was infertility. But just knowing that I needed to rely on Him and I needed to go to Him and I really needed to seek Him. There's a Bible verse that I really stuck to throughout the infertility journey and just going through IVF. That Bible verse, I'd like to share it, is Isaiah 43:19. And it says, let me find it because I wrote it down.
Sure.
Behold, I will do a new thing. Now it shall spring forth. Shall ye not know it? I will even make a way in the wilderness and rivers in the desert. And I feel like for anyone that has walked through infertility, it feels like a desert. I mean, when you think of a desert, you relate that to barrenness and nothingness. And again, no matter what you're going through, if you look to God, He can be the river in the desert that you need. He can be the mountain in the valley that you're walking through. And I think that's ultimately what God taught me about Himself, that if I just seek Him, He is there and He will give me that strength that I need to carry on through.
He will. So, and is that what He taught you about yourself as well, that you need to look to Him?
Yeah, I would say ultimately, that's what He taught me about myself too. Not to rely on my own strength, but to rely on His. And Just to pray about the things that don't seem like are big enough to pray about, or the things that even seem impossible. Just don't be afraid to go to him about those things. Absolutely.
Well, I'll tell you, it's a wonderful story. I think it's going to inspire a lot of people, and I'm so thankful to you three for joining me. Callie was really, really good for this. Tim, I wish you wouldn't have talked so much, but maybe we'll get that better on the next podcast.
Like to give other people a chance too, sometimes.
There you go. He did say something. I wondered if he was going to say something at all. He did at the very end. So it was great. So happy for you guys. I'm so glad that you were able to connect with Dr. Keenan at Southeastern Fertility, and that the Mini-Stim IVF ended up being the answer. By the way, if you are listening to this and you're interested in Mini-Stim IVF, natural cycle IVF, standard cycle, all the options that Southeastern Fertility offers, as well as lower level fertility treatment options, you can go to our website, southeasternfertility.org, and find out more about it. Southeasternfertility.org. In fact, Dr. Keenan's co-director, Dr. John Gordon, actually offers free 15-minute telemedicine consultations where he can put his eyes on your situation and give you guidance. Maybe you end up going to Southeastern Fertility, maybe you don't, but at least you get an experienced pair of eyes on your situation. Thanks for joining us. I'm Mark Mellinger, and this has been Hope, Faith, and Infertility.